Hi guys, chapter 1 is going to cover just some very basic Excel features. Now your book is going to take you through these step-by-step directions, which is what this video is going to do as well. However, I'm going to stray from these step-by-step directions in some places because there's some things I think you need to see that your book doesn't necessarily show you, some useful tips and hints. And there's some things that your book does that just make things a little more difficult. So I'm going to show you the easier, less time-consuming way of doing things throughout this process. First, I am on page 5 of the textbook, and it says in the middle, develop your skills EA1-D1. Okay, and that is where we're starting. So before we get started in this, however, I want to take you on a tour of your Excel screen. Most of you have worked in Excel before, so I'm going to make this quick. I just want to go over a little bit of Excel vocabulary, so when your computer or when your textbook tells you to do something, you're not like, what does that mean? At the top of your Excel screen, each of these words at the top, you can click on them, and each one of these is called a tab. And this entire thing that spans the top of your window is called a ribbon. So whenever it tells you to look for something on the ribbon, that's what it's talking about. In addition, your textbook gives you step-by-step directions. It'll have like home, arrow, font, arrow, bold. And what that means in that example is it wants you to go to the home tab, the font section. So each of these ribbons is divided into sections, and then the bold button. So if it gives you 3 or 4 words in a row, the first word is the tab, the second one is the section name, and then the third and fourth ones, or whatever it is they want you to click on. Okay, let's go ahead and get started, and I'll go through some more of this as we go, some more of your Excel window. A couple basics about Excel. Each one of these boxes that you click on is called a cell. It's kind of like playing Battleship. Each one has a name. So for example, this cell is cell C2. This is your name box. This tells you what cell you're in. I can also click there. If my textbook tells me to go to I-24, I can type in I-24, press enter, and it will take me there. Okay. Right here, this box is called your formula bar, and this is where we can type formulas or text or anything like that. We can also do this down here. You'll notice that your mouse looks like a white plus sign. That is your normal mouse pointer in Excel. If you put it on the edge, it turns into a 4-pointed arrow, and that's your move. That's how you click and drag things. Bottom right-hand corner is your fill handle, and we're going to be using that quite a few chapters ahead. So right now, we should be in cell A1 with that white plus sign. The first project we're going to do is we're going to work on setting up the accounting equation in Excel. So clicking on cell A1 and typing in assets and tap tab. Type equals and tap tab. Type liabilities and tap tab. Type plus, tap tab, type equity. Tap enter. So you'll notice as you press the tab key, it moves to the right. Enter will move you down and back to the beginning. Okay. I'm on step 7. Click cell A1, drag to the right, and release the mouse on cell E1. So what it wants you to do is put your mouse in the middle, so it's a white plus sign on A1. Click and drag to E1, and then you can let go of your mouse button. Step 8, choose home, font, bold. So home, font, bold. So I've just made them bold. Step 9, home, alignment, center. So home, alignment, center. Now we have a bunch of different center possibilities. These buttons down here are your left, right, and center button. These buttons up here are your top, center, bottom. So these center it vertically, these center it horizontally. We're just looking for horizontal right now. So now we're going to start entering in some numbers. So we're going to go to cell We're going to go to cell C2, which is underneath liabilities, and we're going to type in the number 2000 and press enter. We're going to go to E2 and type in 31,250, whoops, and press enter. And we're going to go to A2 And we're going to type in 33,250 and tap escape. So when you press your escape button, you'll see that it erases it. Okay, so that is what our escape key does. Instead of just typing in the answer, we're going to have the computer do it for us. Every time we put a formula in Excel, we always have to start with the equal sign. We want our assets to equal our liabilities, which is 2,000, plus our owner's equity, which is 31,250, and press enter. We're going to get into, should be an equal sign, we're going to get into using equations later on down the road. In cell B2, they want us to put in an equal sign. In cell D2, a plus sign. Now, in Excel, we can highlight, we can select two different cells that are not next to each other. Okay, so I'm going to click on cell B2, hold down my control key, click on D2, and then I'm going to center align those. Okay, format figures within an accounting equation. So I am on step 15. It wants me to select cells A2, hold down my control key, C2 and E2. Whoops. So we've selected all of our numbers, and it wants us to choose the accounting format. So over here on your home tab in the number section, this is where we can format what our numbers look like. It wants us to choose the accounting number format. So what the accounting number format does, if I click on it, it's going to give me a dollar sign, the commas that I need, and 2 decimal places, because it turns that number into a dollar amount. Okay. Now, we learned in accounting that we don't use dollar signs in like our reports and our journal entries, things like that. We just put in the numbers. However, your Excel for Accounting textbook, I think, was probably written by an Excel person as opposed to an accounting person. So it's going to tell you to use the dollar signs all the time. Instead of doing that, it's fine for this section, but anytime after that, we're going to be using the comma, because the comma will give us the comma and the decimal places without the dollar sign. Also, we know in accounting, from Accounting 1 and Accounting 2, that we don't use 2 decimal places unless we're actually working with change. In basic accounting, we don't. We work with whole numbers. So right here in this number section, there's a button to increase the decimal and a button to decrease the decimal. So you go ahead and click that decrease twice, and those decimal places will go away. Okay. Step 18 says save and close the file. So I'm going to go ahead and save this file. And you can put your file wherever it is you keep files. And I'm going to save it as Chapter 1 EA video, because that's what I'm creating. And we have finished those steps. So now I'm going to go ahead and read through your textbook. It talks about cut, copy, and paste, and moving and copying cells, and modifying column widths and row heights, which is what we're going to look at now. So I have flipped to page 11. Feel free to pause the video and read through those pages that were in the middle. On page 11, develop your skills EA1-2. Okay, it says open a blank workbook template and save your file. We are actually going to use the one that we're in now. Down here at the bottom of your screen, it says sheet 1. I'm going to right click and I'm going to rename that one. That was D1. That was our first set of directions. And I'm just going to add a new sheet and rename this one D2. There's no point in starting a whole new file when all we did was create the accounting equation on one sheet. We can just keep it all in one file. That way you don't have a million files floating around your computer. So on this one, it says start in cell A1. And type, I'm on step 3, 4-1-16, and press tab. Okay, so when we did that, it automatically turned it into 2016, which is called the short date format. If we typed this in a different way, it would have formatted it differently. if you ever want to change the way your date is formatted, you can come up here and we can choose different ways to show the date. Okay, and there are more than this. If you go to more, it gives you a whole bunch of different ways to format that. So this is one of the ways, one of the places where I don't quite understand why your book does it this way, but we're going to smile and nod. It wants you to go to cell C1 and type in cash and press enter. Okay. Now, you know, when we are creating a journal entry, the word cash goes in the next column over. So what we're going to do is come up here and cut. And you can see in Excel when you put your mouse on a button, it gives you keyboard shortcuts. So Control X, okay? So you can click on cut or you can use the Control X in your keyboard. Step 6 tells us to go to cell B1 and then click on the picture of the clipboard. Don't click on the word paste. That will give us, a lot of times that'll give us too many options. We just need to click on the clipboard and it moves it over. So cutting and pasting, just basically moving it from one spot to the other. Now we're going to go to cell D1. I'm on step 7 and type in 30,000 and press enter. And here is where I think this is set up a little weird, and I'm going to do it their way and then I'm going to show you the way that I would personally do it. So in C2, Harold Cameron, capital, tap enter. In cell D1, hold down Control and tap C. So they want us to copy it, Control C, and go to E2 and paste it, Control V, and then press enter. Select cell B3 and type investment by owner and press enter. Okay, I'm on page 12. Right click column B and choose column width, type 3 and click OK. Okay, so let's think about this for a minute. Actually, let's go to the next one. Set the column width to column C, so do the same thing, to 27 and click OK. It wants you to highlight, actually let's stop there before we go anywhere else. Let's stop and think about this for a minute. When we are putting journal entries into a journal, the credit row is supposed to be indented, which is what they're creating by typing the debit in column B and the credit in column C. Okay, that's what they've created here, is so that this one is indented. Now, in the long run, this will work perfectly fine. Okay, I want to show you another way to do it because I don't know why, but my brain cannot wrap itself around having them in two different columns. So what I'm going to do is paste this over here to this side. Okay. Instead of putting Harold Cameron Capital in a separate column, I'm going to move it right underneath cash. And I'm going to move these two over so that we have now we have one less column. I'm going to make this column where these two account titles are big enough to fit the account titles. Now this looks like the same. The only difference is that my credit is not indented. Okay. If I click on my credit, right here in the alignment section, there's a button with a blue arrow. Click it once. It's now indented. If it's not indented enough, click it twice. I don't know. I feel like the one on the right is easier for me to understand as opposed to the one on the left. I'm going to leave this completely up to you because everybody's brains work differently. Okay? So when you're doing your assignment for this chapter, whether you do it like the one on the right or the one on the left is completely your call. Okay? I am going to continue with this one over here because those are the directions the book has given me. Highlight columns, I'm on step 15, highlight the columns D through E headers. What that means is it wants you to come up here and click and drag right on the letters D and E. So click on the letter D, drag to the letter E. Right click and choose column width and type 11. Click OK. Okay, so we made those 11. Select cell B3. Now we know that B3 is the description of our transaction. Okay, B3 is the description of our transaction. We're going to turn that into italics. So we're just going to come up here and click on this letter I, or Control I is your keyboard shortcut. Turn that into italics because that shows us that that is not part of the transaction, but it is the description of the transaction. Okay. Now, step 17 gives us the data and wants us to create the journal entry. Okay, so we have the date, supplies, oops, $2,000, accounts payable, $2,000. Now, the other thing. If you remember from the first one, and they may have just been trying to teach you about copy and paste and cut and paste, I think it's faster to type it. It depends on what type of a typist you are. In the first one, we copied the 30,000 and pasted it into the credit. I typed them each. It's, again, totally up to you, however you would like to do it. Oh, I didn't follow the directions very well. It told me to type this one here. But we know that that one has to go to the right. Okay. So to move it there, they want you to put your mouse on the edge and drag it over. So I am now on step 20, which tells me to go to cell B6 and type in purchase of supplies. Now, the next thing I'm going to show you guys is a little bit about formatting. Okay, so step 21 says, click on cell B3. I'm going to show you two different ways to do this because, again, not a fan of the way your book teaches you. It wants us to go to copy. So right here where it says copy, I'm just going to click on the word copy. So it gives us the little ants marching around our box. And then it says go to B6. Click on the arrow underneath paste, and we want the one that says formatting. So we're only pasting the formatting. We're not actually pasting what's there. Okay. So which is this one down here with the percentage sign, and it pastes that italics, that formatting from one to the other. Okay. You'll notice that our ants are still marching around the letter B. So if you push your escape key, that goes away. Now I'm going to undo this and show you another way to do it. Obviously, you could just make it italics, okay? If you have like something that's formatted a lot, like it's centered, it's bolded, it's different colored, it's different size, the font has changed, this is where this comes in handy, okay? So what I'm going to do is click on B3. There's a button right here that says Format Painter. If I click on it once, it will allow me to change the format on one cell. If I double click it, I can click on as many cells as I want to change the format. But what this Format Painter does, it copies whatever formatting I have here and pastes it down here. So I'm going to click on it once, click on this one, and it does the exact same thing, I feel like, with a lot less steps. Okay, step 23 wants us to save our files. So I'm going to go ahead and click Save. The next section of your book talks about using undo and redo and undoing multiple actions. So that's what we're going to be doing next. So in cell D3, we're going to stay in this document. We're going to go to A7, A7, and type in 4-8-16, tab, utilities expense, tab twice, $250, enter. Okay. I am now on page 15, step 3. It says cell C8, accounts payable. And press enter. Now, up here at the top are your undo, redo buttons. So I'm going to click undo, and that takes that out. You could do the same thing by pushing your delete key. We're going to type in cash, press tab twice, and type in 250, and press enter. Okay. So on B9, this time they're going to have us make it italics and then type in the date, the data, payment of utilities expense. And press enter. Okay. I'm on step 8. Typing in the next entry, 4-9-16. Accounts receivable, 1,500, enter. Okay, step 10 tells us to go to B12. Oh, I skipped one. Step 9, C11, and type in service revenue. $1,500 credit. In B12, our description is services provided on account. Okay. And then if they want us to, in step 11, go ahead and click your undo button. It's going to take that out. And then if you decide, nope, I really did want that, you can click your redo button again. It comes right back. And again, we're going to make it italics because it is the description. Now, we're going to grab D1, and this is where I'm going to stray from your textbook, from D1 to E11. Okay? And again, they want us to choose the accounting button. We don't need to choose the accounting button because that's not what we're working with. Okay? We can just pick the comma button and decrease the decimal. Now, you could say that's exactly what I had typed in there. What's the point? The point is, from here on out, as long as you choose this comma button, you no longer have to type in the commas. You can just type in the numbers and then click that comma button and it puts them all in there for you. Okay? So I know some of you had issues in accounting 1 and accounting 2 with comma placements, and that would throw off your calculations. So this will do all of that for you, which is fantastic. Okay? We're going to go ahead and save our document. The next section, if you flip to page 16, 17, and 18, talk about printing. Now, we are not in a situation where we're going to be printing anything, okay? But I do just want to show you a couple things. If you click and drag a specific section, like maybe your employer only wants the entries for the 1st and the 3rd, you can click and drag over those. And when you go into the print box, there's one right here that says print active sheets. You can choose it to just print the selection, and it will only print what you see on the screen. Okay. If you want to change the orientation, for example, when you go in to print something, it's going to automatically print in portrait format, meaning the piece of paper is going vertical. If you want to flip that, there's a button right here where we can change it to landscape, and we'll go to landscape. Okay. There is also a button here in the page layout tab where you can change your orientation and change your margins. Okay. So we're going to save this file. And from here you can go ahead on to your assignment. Have a great week.